Welcome back to 90.7 Perspectives on WVAS. I'm your host, Rob Taylor. Keep in mind the telephone number is 269-6785. If you have a question or comment, feel free to dial us up. We'd love to hear from you. Well, State Superintendent Michael Sentance is in the studio along with Dr. Barbara Cooper. And Dr. Cooper is the Chief Administrative Officer for the State Board of Education. And we'd love to hear from you, the listening audience, if you have a question or comment. Thank you all so very much for stopping by this evening.
Welcome.
Nice to be here.
Mr. Sentence, what do you want the public to know about who you are as a leader?
Well, there's a lot of things that people seem to think about me because I come from out of state. I come from Massachusetts. I'm an English-Irish kid, and as a result, I tend to be a little bit reserved, so people don't understand that about me. But I think that I have a pretty good sense of humor, and if you come by my office and in the staff meeting or whatever, we tend to laugh a lot because we have a good time and we have a good working relationship. I've come to Alabama because I want to improve the education here. I was involved with the education program in the state of Massachusetts. I was the Secretary of Education there, worked as the governor's education advisor there for almost 10 years, and we turned around a lot of things in the state. We improved education to the extent that not only was it moved from the upper third of the country but being first in the country and internationally competitive, ranking ahead of Finland, just behind the Asian countries of Japan and Korea. So it was a terrific experience. I learned a lot. I worked with the U.S. Department of Education for almost 8 years after that, and saw what was working and what wasn't working across the country. And I've tried to bring all of that experience here to Alabama to try to improve the schools here. I'm quite serious about what we're doing. I want to have great schools here. I think that there are things that we can do here to make schools better. And just hope that people will give me a little bit of understanding as we move forward, because there's a lot of work to do.
And people seem to have misconceptions about Michael Sentence.
Sure.
And they're not being patient and giving you that time to let you do your job.
Right. I think that, look, this is we're talking about doing a lot of things here in the state that haven't been done before. We're talking about increasing the quality of teaching and requiring more depth of understanding of content, particularly in their subject matter, and that is challenging to colleges and universities. It's challenging to the school districts. And we're not doing this in a way that we're trying to be in any way disrespectful to educators. They've done what they've done because they care deeply about children. They're involved with their schools. They come to work and work hard every single day. And I have a profound amount of respect for them. What we're trying to do, though, is understand where we need to go as a state and as a public education system. You asked earlier the principles about change. Well, change is a constant in public education. Every country, every state in this country is trying to improve their public education, and Alabama has to be part of that. We have to get better because it's not only going to be providing the kind of opportunity for young people in the state, but it's going to make the state more competitive for the kind of high knowledge jobs that this state desperately needs.
And from listening to you, those are your goals, to turn the school system around here in Montgomery and to improve the school system. And people will see that if they just let you do your job.
Well, I think that yes, and it was not something that I came down to do initially, to focus a great deal of my time and energy on Montgomery County. But the more that I started to look at Montgomery County and understand a number of things, look at the finances, look at the operations, and obviously look at the academic achievement, it became quite clear to me that there's a great deal of work to be done here. I mean, Montgomery County has one of the best schools in the country operating here, and one of the magnet high schools, but it also has some of the worst schools in the state of Alabama. And that's a gap that we need to close. We need to improve the schools while we are also challenging the best schools to get even better. And I think that there's a lot of things that I've seen, that I've done with other people, that I think can be brought to bear here in Montgomery County.
What do you say to people who say, well, you're spending too much time with Montgomery County schools? There are all these other schools around the state, and you're not spending enough time with us.
Well, I'm spending a lot of time working on all of the issues that confront education in Alabama. The things that I'm doing at the state level as we roll these things out will impact all schools, all school districts. I have a very, very talented team of people that I've delegated the responsibility to assist Montgomery County. Dr. Barbara Cooper here at the state level, Dr. Jamal Wright at the state level, works to try to improve. They work to try to improve all schools, but they spend part of their time on Montgomery County. You've met Dr. Eggleston. He's a terrific guy. He's a caring and compassionate educator. He is overseeing the day-to-day challenges in the district, so I don't have to think about those kind of things. We talk, on a Monday staff meeting. We'll talk periodically during the week, but most of my day, most of my time is focused on all of the people, all of the school districts in the state of Alabama.
Dr. Cooper, so how do we, or what do you see as ways to improve the school system?
I think that we certainly need to look at our educators, and we have been doing that. We've had an opportunity when we first started this intervention to visit schools, to see the quality of leadership that exists in our schools, and to see firsthand that we have an opportunity to really build our educators up. This summer we spent time providing professional learning for them. They had an opportunity to deeply engage. I actually went to the retreat last Friday and saw firsthand how these individuals were having conversations about how we improve Montgomery Public Schools. They aren't seeing this as something someone is doing to them. They are embracing this. As you just heard those three powerful principals talk, they're owning this, and they're recognizing that they have a place to a place to participate in changing our city, our county, to make it better for all students. So we have a very committed team. We see this intervention as a very collaborative effort, and when I talk about collaboration, I'm talking about in the spirit of school staffs working together to create plans that are very focused on what are the needs of this school. Yes, we've identified some district-wide needs, which was our reason for going and doing the intervention, but now we're getting it down to the individual school. And as we move forward, you're going to see those principals monthly engaging their communities, welcoming the communities in. I heard one of the principals talk about it's not a one-size-fits-all. We're not creating a plan that every single school has to be a part of. We're creating individual schools plans. We're creating individual plans for individual students that will get down to that student level and begin to address the needs of those students. So we're inviting parents in. We're going to engage monthly in these community meetings and forums in order to really have everyone play a part in improving Montgomery Public Schools. And I believe at the end of this intervention, we will have a stronger city, a stronger community, and schools that are ready to sustain the efforts that we've put in place as a result of this intervention.
There will be some challenges. Where do you all see some of these challenges?
Well, I think one of the things that is a challenge that I see is that we're talking about doing things that haven't been done before. I mean, the reality is that the state has had interventions in the past, but it's usually been matters that were operational and perhaps a bit on the fiscal side of the equation and in the management of the school district. And very capable people went in. They did their work. They righted the ship. They, in terms of making sure that the funds were accounted for properly and spent properly. Cleaned up a bit of the personnel issues within the district, and then the state receded from the intervention. It didn't necessarily improve achievement. It did not change the real trajectory for that particular district. What we're talking about here is broad and deep. We're talking about trying to change not only the operational side of things, but we're talking about fundamentally altering, how the schools are run, improving the student achievement, and giving more opportunity to young people to have a better educational program and consequently a better future. This is a deeper challenge than the state has taken on before, and I think that one of the things that I'm trying to do is to bring practices that I have seen successful in other states, in other school districts around the country, and bring that to Montgomery County and start to broaden people's perspective of what is possible, because I've seen great schools in tough communities. We can do that here. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but I believe that it's thoroughly possible.
When it comes to the boots on the ground, how important is professional learning to teachers and leaders?
It's an enormously important issue, and when you see how other districts and how other states have addressed this, you see how profoundly important professional development and professional learning is. So that's one area that we're going to be working on. We've already engaged a great deal with the teachers and with the principals. We've gotten a lot of very positive feedback. I think Dr. Cooper can speak to that a bit more. But it is going to be something that we have to help shape the understanding of what we expect and what they should be expecting to see in their schools.
Dr. Cooper, some of the principals talked about the community portion of MPS. How would you like to see that expand?
I would like to see, as far as community engagement, I think it's absolutely critical. And as one of the principals indicated, there is not a one-size-fits-all. I think we have to be very purposeful about engaging the community. In previous experiences, I had an opportunity to do some work around Jean Annion's work called Radical Possibilities, where it's about bringing in the community. It's about taking meetings into the community versus expecting everything to happen right there in that school environment. We recognize that not all parents had positive school experiences. Not all parents have time to necessarily come into the school in some of the traditional ways that we expect parents to come, do bake sales and do some of those things that maybe parents who don't have to work several jobs are able to do. So we have to get purposeful about what does community engagement mean in each of those schools. When I was a principal, I insisted on 100% parent-teacher conferences, and people say it can't be done. In a school with 700 students, it absolutely was done because we did everything we needed to do to help parents to understand. We have to see you at some point to talk with you about how your student is progressing. We went out into the community. Some of those parent-teacher conferences were held at the parents' job because the parents said, I have 30 minutes. If someone can come here and talk with me about what's going on with my student, I can engage in that way. So it's really about learning your community, having those purposeful conversations with parents, asking them, what does parent engagement mean to you? What can you give to help your child to be successful in school? And when you start getting to those deep level of conversations, you'll see a more engaged community. You'll see a more engaged parent because it has become purposeful for them, and we're not trying to make one size fit all.
Telephone number once again is 269-6785, 269-6785. Superintendent Michael Sentance is in the studio along with Dr. Barbara Cooper. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to dial us up. Superintendent Sentence, there is so much talk about the hiring of new staff at MPS. Can you explain the process?
Well, sure. We're I can explain it in a broad sense. The actual details, I think, are something that Dr. Eggleston and perhaps Dr. Cooper can talk about a little bit more in depth. Okay. But the reality is that we want talent in Montgomery County. We want the smartest, best, most ethical people we can find to be working in Montgomery County. And we've been, I think, profoundly blessed by having a pool of candidates step up to the plate here. Not only people, talented people within the district, but people who are willing to commit their professional careers to come to Alabama, to come to Montgomery County and invest their energies and their talents in this cause. And I think that speaks to, how much good work we're doing to get people of this caliber to come to Montgomery County, and I think that this county is going to benefit from it. I mean, the reality is that there are a lot of very, very good ideas out there in public education in this country, and we need to benefit from them. We don't know everything about what works in public education, and when you can find people who have made it work in another school district, in another state, and you can get them to commit to coming here and sharing their experience and sharing their insights, that's a powerful part of the change process.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to that, Dr. Cooper?
I would also add that we certainly have processes for hiring individuals in Montgomery Public Schools, as we do in any school system. I do know that as part of our hiring process, we do a paper screening where we determine if the person is actually qualified. If that person is qualified, we then determine that interviews will be scheduled. We have been very purposeful about having committees serve as part of our interview teams because we don't want it to be one person selecting all of the applicants. So for the new hires that have come to Montgomery Public Schools, we went through that entire process and we absolutely chose the smartest, the most capable individuals to help us with this effort. And I hope that the community will have an opportunity to interact with these individuals as I have done in order to see that we brought some talent to Montgomery Public Schools, and that talent mixed with the individuals that are already here and have the historical perspective makes that team that much more powerful because we will be working together and everyone is on board about our mission being to make education the best for Montgomery Public School students.
The issue of discipline comes up every year among teachers and parents. What are some of the new methods that you hope to implement?
Well, we certainly will continue with efforts around positive behavior intervention supports because we do recognize that when schools actually use these methods that they are very successful. But I believe I heard Dr. Eggleston also talking about the importance of really empowering teachers with tools and strategies in order to be successful. As we move forward, we'll also be looking at some of the feedback that we receive from teachers around being able to actually input their disciplinary referrals. We're not there yet, but there are processes that we are looking at where teachers can log those referrals, and as administrators, we can help support principals around making sure that they're being responsive. But ultimately, we have to address some of the mental health challenges that some of our students are dealing with. We will be strengthening our relationship with the Helping Montgomery Families Initiative that's really all around having interventions and supports for students. These are all things that we will be working to strengthen during phase one of our plan. It's not something that happens overnight, but we recognize that from day one we have to be addressing the issues and challenges that come into our classrooms and making sure that teachers have those supports. So if they really have a student that's making it impossible to teach, our expectation is not that the teacher is having to continue to work with that type of situation day after day without some type of support and intervention for the student.
Mm-hmm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're doing away with ACT Aspire?
Yes, we are.
And what have we decided? What are we going to replace it with?
It's a test called Scantron. Many school districts in the state have experience with that. It's been used as a formative assessment, meaning that they have a test at the beginning of the year and another test at the end of the year that measures growth. We had one school district, the Florence City School District, that several years ago got a waiver from the state to use Scantron as not merely a formative test, but a summative test. And so they went through the work of validating the test and equating it to the ACT Aspire results, so that you could take the two tests and see how they in fact matched up with each other, so that a score of proficiency was the same on one and on the other. They also made sure that the standards were aligned with the Alabama academic standards, the expectations for students. So we were able to borrow from that experience and use that as the the backdrop, making sure that our tests going forward would be very similar. In other words, we can look at past year's data and look at this year's data and say, okay, we were making progress or we're not making progress, and the test results validate that. We think that because it is a computer adaptive test, meaning that it will get more difficult during the taking of the test, and you'll be able to better ascertain where students really are on the spectrum. Some third graders may be on fifth grade, and that's good to know. Some students in third grade may be in the second grade. That's also good to know. You can start to develop something which is specific to the child, the individual plan for that particular child. So we think that this is going to be a very useful year as we transition on things, and we're going to be going out into the marketplace and asking testing vendors to send us proposals about what kind of tests we can have going forward for Alabama.
Now, what exactly is Alabama Ascending?
Okay. Alabama Ascending is the state's strategic plan for public education improvement. When I came here and started work in September, I quickly found out that we didn't have a robust operational strategic plan. We had a plan called 2020, but I thought that it was very lacking on a variety of different things that were necessary for school improvement. We didn't have anything that was specific to raising achievement in math or in science or, frankly, in reading. We had some programs. The Alabama Reading Initiative, for example, worked on improving reading and had been successful in the past, less successful in recent years. So we needed, a deeper understanding of both what we were doing and how we were doing it, and to comprehensively, get our educational program going in the right direction. We set up a series of committees, the 3 committees, about 25 educators in each, academic as well as K-12 educators. And they went to work for several months, came out with their reports in May, and we took all of their reports and synthesized that into one coherent document. That's the Alabama Ascending. It's a very, very ambitious plan. We focused on the year 2030 in the plan, and the reason that we focused on 2030 is because when we were trying to figure out what should be our target, what should be our goal in this, I said, well, let's start with a child coming into kindergarten next year. They'll be graduating in 2030. Let's figure out the plan, the trajectory for improvement that will make that student successful and ready for the realities of life in Alabama and in the United States in that decade. So our plan is to move the state education system to a level of competency and achievement that will get more students ready for the challenges of that time period.
Dr. Cooper, you said earlier that you had worked as a principal before. What is your message to that teacher who cares but feels like quitting? What do you say to them?
I think probably everyone who's been a teacher has probably been there. I recall my first year as a teacher, brand new teacher in Denver Public Schools, walking into a classroom. The students I was their third teacher in that school year. I was being hired in January, and basically had a principal every day that was peeking in my door to see if I was still there. And the students would ask me every day, "Are you coming back tomorrow?" It was extremely challenging. I would say to that teacher, surround yourself with a good mentor, because I remained in education because I had an outstanding mentor that helped teach me small things like take the chairs off the desk at the beginning of the day, because when they walk in and knock the chairs off the desk, fights could ensue and other things that make it very challenging to regain control of that particular day. So I would say to that teacher, surround yourself with those veteran teachers that have that experience and that can help support you to understand how to grow in this profession. We can't walk in our classrooms each day and close the door and think that we can do this all alone. It has to be collective, it has to be collaborative, and we have to have those conversations with others who have been where we're trying to get, and know that when you see the success that students experience and what you did to impact that student, that's what makes it worth coming back each day, and ultimately coming back year after year knowing that you've made a difference. So I encourage our teachers to become a part of a professional learning community so that we grow as a community, and as a result we end up with an excellent school.
Well, they're playing my theme music, so that's time. It's time for me to wrap this up. Every time I'm having a great conversation, time flies by. Superintendent Michael Sentance, thank you so very much for stopping by.
Happy to be here.
Dr. Barbara Cooper, the Chief Administrative Officer for the State Board of Education, thank you so very much for stopping by.
Thank you for having us.
And again, thanks to Dr. Eggleston and all of the wonderful principals who joined us earlier on in the program. Hey, that'll do it for this week's edition of 90.7 Perspectives. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk again next time.